Well, now, having studied these people closely, what are these people? These are wealthy people. I have seen a certain pattern, and by the way, it does not change. Whether you change the individual, the pattern remains to be the same. And on this video, I'm going to share with you 5 assets that the rich happens to buy each and every time and all the time. And by the way, you might be shocked if I share with you this information because you might actually been seeing it happening, but you do not even know how do I go about it and how do I buy it and how do I get myself into the game. And by the way, guess what? If you're watching me for the first time, make sure that you hit the like video, or rather the like button, and also make sure that you subscribe to this channel because I upload a new video each and every day. And always make sure that you leave a comment down below there. All right, let's go to the asset number 1. These guys, they are fond of buying things, we call them the stocks and ETFs. Have you ever heard of things called stocks and ETFs? Okay, ETFs, extended traded funds. See, ETFs are basically what is just like a product. Let me use a very simple language to explain what is an ETF. An ETF is a product developed to monitor a certain or to monitor performance of a certain index. All right, because in most cases when you're buying the index fund, it's like you use the ETF. All right, now see what happens is that these guys, when you guys are listening to the news, for example, let's say there is an election in any given year. Okay, for example, this year's at around November, USA are gonna have elections, and most of the people are gonna be cling to the areas and the and the news of, hey, who gonna win the presidency? Is it the Trump? Is it the Biden? And what have you? And these guys, they mostly don't even concentrate on that. What they concentrate on, how is the market behaving? How is the market responding? When Jerome Powell comes in and reading the news and all those kind of things, and how is the market behaving? For those who do forex and what have you, understand exactly what I'm talking about, right? So there's things called the CPI and what have you. So this guy usually is based on the stocks. Stocks, if you like, maybe another name, I can call it shares. Shares basically means is you giving your money to a certain company, and then you're given the equity, and then that equity you are actually entitled to getting the dividends when that company performs better. That is exactly how it goes about. Now, these stocks, what happens is that, well, is one of the areas where you can diversify your income rather than just having a business. Probably you're watching this, you're a successful business person. Probably you're watching this, you're employed somewhere, you're entitled to a salary, but this is an area that you can be able to do so. Well, I do not know the procedure of buying shares from a different country, but all I know, in Kenya, you need to have yourself a stockbroker's account or operated account, which is called the CDS account, and then from there you can be able to go ahead and be able to invest on these stocks or the shares if you love them. An index fund, again, which is actually monitored by the ETFs, you can as well buy them using the same procedure. You see, there's no a distinct procedure when you want to buy the stocks and when you want to invest on the ETFs. They kind of marry the same. There is one and the same at the same time, that procedure. All right, now ETFs, or rather index fund, is like you buying something that is of combined quality. Like, let's say instead of buying one share of a given company, you buy a multiple of them at the same time. All right, so that is one area or one thing that they usually buy each and every time. Now, the other thing that they usually buy when it comes to investment, they usually invest on things, we call them the movable assets. The movable assets. What are these movable assets? Have you ever heard of some of the expensive watches? And you find these guys usually fond of buying this kind of things, or maybe you can buy things like arts. You find that is during an auction there is an art that is being sold, and just a picture of somebody, maybe a picture of somewhere. They tell you this picture was painted, I don't know, 1800, 1714, 1200 and something, like the Mona Lisa art or the paint work. It was actually one of the most expensive art and all that kind of things. So these guys, what they do is that they buy these things and they keep them. And what they do is that, hey, come on, you see, just buy a pen of this. Maybe you can be told that this pen was used by the George Washington, or maybe was used by, I don't know, the first guy in the first century and what have you. So they buy the thing, they bank on the information that they have, and then they make sure that whatever they are buying, there is none any other like that. Then they can be able to resell that thing in future. That is another way of hiding your asset. That's another way of hiding your properties. So they usually buy these movable assets, and maybe things like watches, likes of the Richard Mille. You can buy a datography, datography, perpetual tourbillon. Those are examples of the watches that they buy, and they keep it and they have it. And by the way, guess what? You can just buy a watch worth like over 20 million, 30 million, and you can just cross borders with it, provided, I don't know, if you declare what you're owning and something also, but you cannot cross borders with something like 20 million Kenyan shillings or 200,000 USD or something of sort, you cannot be able to cross with it. But you can just do so. By the way, that can be usually be used to, to cross wealth, to cross borders with wealth from one country to the other. So those are areas that you can as well think about if you have the capability to be able to buy all those kind of things, and can be used for the purposes of growth and development to the next level. Let's go to the point number 3. And point number 3, this is quite interesting. It's all about them buying things. We call them the real estate. Let me spend a little bit time on this particular one. Okay, real estate. This is a situation whereby they buy some properties, some lands, some, build some houses and rental houses, commercial houses, and all those kind of things. Well, I know you'll be like, okay, but just if you told us not to build rentals. Well, I didn't say you shouldn't. What I said is that it's not actually one way of where you can be able to grow your money, especially when you're starting, when you're down below there. Because I told you that is a capital intensive business. It means that you really need a huge lot of money. And you must usually get yourself into this business if you are actually having what we call the financial muscle. And if you do not, you're looking forward into developing and growing the money, then wrap the real estate or the investments with a business mentality. You build something, then you resell it later, and that is exactly how you make cash. Because at the beginning you actually focus on growing the cash, then later when now you have a good cash flow, then now you start thinking about how can I retain this money, how can I actually go ahead and do something called asset retainability, because that is exactly what we do. So real estate, well, obviously this is an area that does not even need a lot of introduction. You already know it's an amazing area. Most of you guys watching this video already know, or thinking, or you already have the assets as far as the investments are concerned. But on this particular area, I would say get into it with the utmost wisdom, utmost intelligence, because otherwise I have seen it turning a lot of people into slavery, or into slaves rather, because you can get into it without proper planning, and then you get into it, what do you call it, you press what we call the cash flow, and in that process it becomes a little bit hard and tough for you to actually survive along the way. And also what I can tell you is that real estate, again, it's one of the areas that it has actually been proven to work amazingly when it comes to the wealth creation and also making money out there. All right, you can get into it. And maybe let me again tell you something as I move to the next point. See, if you do not have a lot of money to get into the real estate way early, you can as well think of getting to the real estate using the back door, using something called the REITs. And I've made a whole video dedicating all that information. You can go check it. REITs, real estate investment trusts. This is whereby you come together with people who have the same mission as you, and actually you buy. For example, I used a very simple example. Let's say here there is a building that is being sold. Let's say this building will cost, let's say, 100 million, and then this building is actually, someone is actually divided into smaller units, achievable units. Let's say they're selling a unit at maybe say 10,000 per share, and then you can be able to join hands when this building are being built. And then what happens is that, hey, if you maybe buy 10 shares, 20 shares or something of sort, whenever this building is actually on lease or on rent and is making something at the end of the month, then you get assured that you are entitled to earning something of sort. And these areas are actually regarded, or they are told by the CMA, or Capital Market Authority of Kenya, that they are supposed to share 80% of whatever they are making from that income. Unlike maybe when you're in the stocks is where companies make a profit, they pay you dividends. And what they pay in terms of dividends, maybe a company can make 100 billion profit, then maybe they decide to share only 20% of it. But according to the law, these companies are supposed to share 80% of what they have made as a profit amongst the shareholders. So perhaps if you do not have a lot of money to get in the real estate the very first time, then how about you think about getting to it using the REITs formula or the REITs route, and that way you can be able to create wealth using a simpler method. All right, now let's go. By the way, the process of buying REITs or investing into REITs is similar of that stocks and ETFs. So by virtue of you knowing how to invest on ETFs or the stocks, then you know how to invest on what they call the REITs. Well, that is according to Kenya. Maybe I do not know the rules and regulations in your country. Let's go to the point number 4. The point number 4, they are actually buy something called time. And I know this one is a kind of mysterious. You're like, how exactly do they buy time? I remember how you find them, buying these private jets and what have you. Because if there is something that the rich people usually what do you call, respect a lot, is the aspect of time. They can do anything and everything to make sure that they have time on their side. And this they do so. By the way, I don't know whether you've realized this. Rich people, they would rather text you than call you, because they know the moment you start calling, you're likely to talk about the filler materials and filler information. But when you talk, or rather when you text, you go straight forward to to the point, because obviously texting and chatting is a little bit tedious compared to just placing a phone in your head, on your ear, and start talking. So the point is good to make sure that at least you manage on your time. And management of the time, this is again when they learn how to delegate responsibilities. If maybe say I need to wrap this board, instead of doing that, probably I could be making another call or texting somebody, which means me making money. I would rather delegate some responsibilities for somebody to wrap this board while I was doing something else. Let's say whatever I'm doing something else on this side, I'm making 2,000, and I'm gonna pay 1,000 maybe for somebody, or maybe let's say 500 for somebody to wrap this board. So I would rather not wrap the board, delegate that responsibility, make the 2,000, pay that person, then I'm gonna get my board wrapped, and at the end of the day, I have made some cash. That is exactly it. And that's why you find some of the activities you are like, wow, I think this guy could have done this thing. Why would you pay somebody like 10,000 to do it, and you can just do it and something of sort? See, back then I used to reason that way, until I realized, guess what? This guy, well, he could have done the same thing, but him doing that exactly thing could have missed a lot of things on the other side. So it's actually better when they delegate these things. And by the way, the moment you start delegating a lot and they're assigning responsibilities to people without you micromanaging them, but of course monitoring them, that is exactly how you even become able to scale your business and scaling your investments. How about I go to the last one? And the last one is none other than having or buying things. We call them the commodities. Commodities on this regard are things like oils. You find these people are buying things like wheat. You buy things like corn. They're buying gold. They're buying silver. These are all metals and precious things that they usually buy. See why wheat? Why wheat is wheat is known to be one of the greatest things that is consumed by humanity on earth, and it's an area where it has a lot of interest for people who are actually how the market moves. Things to do with corn. Corn, again, by the way, this is a commodity again that is being used, I think, between wheat and corn. I think corn is actually highly used compared to wheat, but anyway, I stand corrected. Okay, I'm referring that. But for example, if you come to Kenya, don't dare touch anything that comes from corn, because if you talk about ugali, it's like our staple food and all those kind of things. So it's quite of a thing in our country. Okay, so the thing is this. So if these guys usually invest in these particular areas, they can buy oil, they can invest on this wheat, they can invest on this coin, and they can invest on this gold and silver and what have you. For example, there was and by the way, not there was, it's still there. Most of the people nowadays, they don't even bank on how the countries are behaving. The rich are buying the golds, because you see gold has that decentralized kind of a thing. It's like a cryptocurrency. See, cryptocurrency, see, people are investing into that specific area because it's quite of an interesting area. It's an area that I've never actually decided to talk about, but I think I'm gonna think and make one video or two about the cryptocurrency. What is it, how do you go about it, the blockchain technology and all those kind of things. I think I'm gonna make some videos here and there so that I may be able to explain these particular points. Maybe perhaps somebody can grab something into that particular area. All right, so anyway, for now it's a goodbye, but don't forget this. Those are the 5 assets that usually the rich buys all the time. And by the way, you can go out there and do the same and be able to invest. And by the way, you might think like actually these things cost a lot of money. It doesn't cost. A couple of thousands, you have yourself into the shares and stocks. Movable assets, maybe perhaps here may be a little bit expensive for you to do so. But the real estate, you can as well get yourself from the REITs route. And if you have some cash, you can get into the property development and property management time. You can actually learn the skill as early as this. You don't have to wait a particular time for you to do so. And the last one, that's about the commodities, the oil. These are things that you can be able to trade, provided you have a reputable and regulated broker. You can be able to buy all these things, and you can use them in the forex trading. And for those who do forex, they can understand what I'm talking about. Anyway, guys, guess what? That marks the end of my video. But don't forget to like the video. Make sure that you comment down below. And if you'd like to have a conversation with me, go ahead and grab that number from the description of this specific video. Let's have a discussion. For now, it's a goodbye, and see you in the next one.